Welcome back to the i427 Garage, everybody. We are working on our Mark IV prototype, and today we're working on mounting the seats. All right, well, we've been down this road before. We are working with the Breeze seat mounts for the Mark IV Roadster. And I'm having the same struggles I seem to always have with these seat mounts. I just don't like the way they mount. If you remember in the last car we did, the 25th anniversary car, I mounted them a little bit differently than I did on the first or second car that we did. I ended up putting through bolts in through the structure of the car, so into the chassis. There's a metal plate underneath the seat. The Factory 5 provides for you to basically bolt your seats down. These seat mounts don't mount that way. Although they have a triple redundancy as far as how many different pieces you have to bolt together. The seat bases themselves mount to the car with pop rivets. Now, there's so many pop rivets, I can't imagine them ever all failing at one time. But I mounted them exactly the way they were supposed to on the first car that we did, and I've mounted them that way on this car as well. So in the instructions, they tell you to go ahead and to mount these with the 1/8 inch pop rivets in the majority of the spaces. And then, as instructed, to use the 3/16 pop rivets in places where you can get like a good bite into like a frame member or a steel plate. Well, this whole area from about here forward is all steel plate. So it doesn't matter which rivets you use. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's probably 12 rivets that are going directly into that steel plate. Now, word of caution, the pop rivets that they supply to you are not long enough to go through the seat base mount, carpeting, and any sound or thermal barrier you're putting down. They're designed to go directly onto the aluminum floor pan of the Mark IV Roadster. So it's almost like you have to put those in and then carpet around them. Well, I'm not doing that because I think that's, one, it's more time consuming. It doesn't allow a more finished product in the end, meaning if you have to pull the seat out, you've got this bare spot underneath the seat. And if you can't put thermal barrier below the seat, what's the point? Because the thermal barrier is to keep all of that road heat off of your butt. So you're gonna have to invest in some longer pop rivets. Now I didn't go out and buy, stainless steel rivets like they provide in the seat base mounting kit. I simply used aluminum rivets that I had here in stock. And like I said, there's so many rivets that you're putting in this thing that it's plenty strong. But the rivets I used were 1/2 inch long. By the time they go through all that material and make it through the other side, there's only a small portion of that end bulb that allows you to clamp these things down and get them tight with all that sandwich of material in between it. So, like I said, I think there's plenty of meat there, but that's why in the last car we did, I decided to just use some through bolts. I actually used the mounting hardware that Factory 5 provides for the seats, and I used those, 4 of them, to mount the actual seat base, the Breeze seat base, into the car. And I didn't use any other rivets. I just used the 4 bolts, and that was it. But in this car, I decided I was going back to this. I didn't want to, reinvent the wheel in order to do these, and so I just mounted it exactly the way it showed in the instructions. Now, one other word of caution when you're doing these, make sure that you orient your studs that come through the seat base in a manner that you can move the seat forwards or back depending on where you initially set your seat. So for instance, I set these so they're all the way against the back wall. And so in this case, I've got the studs in the forward position, so that if the seat ever needs to be moved forward, we've got 1, 2, 3 more positions on the bottom of the seat base to move these forward. I don't think the owner's ever going to do that. However, if I had this turned the other way, the only way for the seat to go and move would be back, which it can't do because it's already against the wall. So make really sure that before you before you pop rivet these or bolt them in place, that you've got them oriented properly. So I've got this one all in. However, the seats are not going to go in for the final time right now. If you'll notice, underneath the door sills, I've still got this area that needs to be carpeted. So basically what I'm going to do in those areas is I'm going to pull the seat out, and then I'm going to make 2 pieces of carpeting. One for the front section of that door sill area and one for the back, and there'll be a seam in the middle. And that seam is going to be right at the front of the seat, so you're probably not going to see it. But what that'll allow me to do is it'll allow me to wrap the carpeting over the top, similar to what they did in the Mark III cars, so that I don't have this lone wolf piece of carpeting that we have to have a seam right against the top corner here. If you remember in the 25th anniversary car, in order to kind of alleviate this seam right here, we ended up using some door edge guard on the end, and that was our finished surface. On this one, I'm just going to take some raw pieces of carpet, I'm going to bring them up and wrap them over the top piece, and there'll be a seam right here and down in here. So that's what I'm working on today. I think what I'll probably do to wrap up the day, I'm going to pull the seats back out, I'm going to put them over on the bench, and then I've got the seat heaters here, and I'll probably work on the seat heaters tomorrow night, get them all mounted into the seat bases and into the seat backs, so that when the seats go in for the final time, it's just a matter of plugging those in after the seats get mounted for the final time and they're done. So that's what I'm going to work on tomorrow. What I worked on today off camera was our trailer light converter. If you'll remember in the last week's video, I tested all the wiring on the car. And after the initial test, for some reason, I couldn't get the hazard circuit to get past the turn signal or the trailer light converter. I could read it with my meter on the side before the trailer light converter, so that we were getting power, we were getting flashing power there, but it would not go through the trailer light converter. I don't know whether it's a matter that both sides are flashing at the same time or what, but this was a different brand. It was one of the original trailer light converters that Factory 5 sent out with the early Mark IV kits that had the single LED taillights in the back. And I never used it for whatever reason. I think we did relays in that car. And if you'll remember on the last car, we had a problem with one of the trailer light converters. That was the new one that Factory 5 has been supplying, but that was the Takancha trailer light converter. And so I replaced it with one that I had here in stock, and it's worked perfectly since. So what I did is I ordered up another one of the Takancha trailer light converters for this car, and this is an earlier car than the 25th anniversary car. It didn't have the option for the single rear tail lights on each side, and so since the owner decided to go that route, we had to provide our own trailer light converter, one of which I had here in the shop. And I found out the hard way. For whatever reason, this trailer light converter, I think it was made by Hopkins. It says Hoppy on it, Hoppy. It just didn't want to pass that hazard light signal. And so once I replaced it with the new one from Takancha, it's worked perfect. Now I'm going to keep testing it because honestly, I did have one connector that wasn't plugged in when I first started testing last week. But since then, I've had good connection for everything, and I just couldn't figure another reason for those hazard lights in the back to not be working. And so I just went ahead and ordered another trailer light converter, and that seems to have fixed it. So we'll see what happens. The other thing that I'm going to be working on is fastening the trim plate that we have from Mike Everson to go around our turn signal switch. Now, I've had the dash in and out a number of times, and I'm probably going to have it out at least 2 more times. What you're going to find is if you're mounting one of these plates around your turn signal switch, you'll have meat behind one of the screws on this side, and I think the screw on the other side here. But the one at the top, there's nothing behind it to screw to. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the dash back off of the car, and on the back there is almost like a bump out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it in here or not, but you can just see it right here. And we had to cut a portion of that to get our Russ Thompson turn signal switch in there. But there's a gap in between the top of the turn signal switch and that boss that Factory 5 molds into this dash. And so when you go to put that screw in, there's nothing there. So I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take this boss right here, and I'm going to machine that off. Either with like a Dremel tool and a cutoff wheel, or I'll just take my angle grinder and a cutoff wheel and get that flat. And then what I'll probably end up doing is making some type of horseshoe plate to go around the steering bezel, and then pre-drilling some holes for my screws to go in, all 3 of the screws, so that trim plate mounts nice and tight against the front of the dash. Now you don't want to make it overly tight. You want it just to be snug, so that it doesn't depress into the padding of the dash. But at the same time, we do want to screw in the top of there so that it's fastened to the dash. All right, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the seat back portion. This is the seat bottom. You're going to gently pull the leather or the vinyl covering away from the foam. Do it a little at a time. You don't want to tear the foam, but it will come off. You just have to be careful about it. You can hear it's just a little at a time, all the way across until you get this piece completely loose across the back. So I've just about got it. And then what you're going to want to do is start folding it over, and do your best not to tear the foam, because we're going to have to end up using spray glue to put it all back together. So then when you get it to this point where you've got it around the back like this, just take and separate it from the foam bottom. There's a little bit of glue at the back here too. So same thing, just gently pull it out all the way across. Okay, so you can see I've got it opened up. I've got this pocket opened up, but this section here isn't wide enough. So you're going to have to gently pull it all the way to the corner over here, all the way to there, and all the way to the corner over here, like this. Now you've got a clear spot for that pad, that heating pad, to go all the way in here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the seat warmer, the warm seat or whatever they're calling these nowadays, and I'm going to gently work this in there as far as I can push it, just like this. And you're going to get it probably about halfway, and then you're going to see that it has some resistance. So then what you're going to do is just reach your hand in there and grab the end of it and work it all the way down. It's going to go around the corner just the littlest bit. So at the back, basically you're just going to have these 2 little areas, one on each side. And then you're going to wrap this back around. Now you're going to have to make a slot. And you don't want to make it in the stitching, because if you make it in the stitching, eventually the stitch will open up all the way down. So go just below that, and there's a solid piece of leather in between the stitching and the Velcro. Cut a slit about 3/4 of an inch across here, and that's where you're going to feed your wire out through. Okay, so I've got my slit in there. I'm gonna go ahead and feed the connector through. I probably made it a little tight, but it'll go. So there's the connector, there's the wire. Make sure you don't kink the wire, you want it to come straight out. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold this back over, use your spray glue, put spray glue on the backing of the leather and a little bit on the foam, let it tack up, then fold it over, and you're done. The seat backs are going to be even easier. There's two clips, basically. They're clips that go from side to side on the bottom of the seat that need to be removed, and that'll open up the cavity in the back of the seat between the actual leather or vinyl and the padding. So let me show you what those look like. All right, so basically it's this clip right here. It goes from the side to side, and what you're going to do is you kind of got to get your hand in from the back side of the seat and just kind of wiggle that out of there. I like to get one corner going and then it'll just pull off all the way down. So you can see it's this U-shaped channel and it goes around this bar right here. Now there's another one here in the front, right down in here. This one is actually hooked around the backmost one. So same thing, you're gonna have to get your finger in there and kind of wedge that up and then get it out. I can't do it with one hand right now, so let me get that out of there and I'll show you how you're gonna get the seat heater in there. You can see here that once you pull this out of the way, you've got all kinds of room to get that seat heater pad in there. And then once you get it in and placed in there the way you want, what you're gonna do is you're gonna come on the back side of the seat, and just like we did with the seat bottom cushion, we're gonna cut a small little slit in the back of the seat right here. There's no stitching back here, so you're gonna be just fine. But there is a bar that runs right here in the center, a steel bar. And there's a steel bar on the bottom. So you're gonna wanna offset it just a little bit to one side or the other. I usually do it on one side for the passenger seat, and I do it for the opposite side on the driver's seat. It just puts the wires in a better position so that they can be plugged in while the seat's in place. Because what we're gonna have to do on the seat bottom cushion is we're actually gonna have to bring it under one of these bars and kind of come out the side back here so that it's got a little channel right here for the wire to set in so that the seat and the seat base don't crush the wire and short it out. All right, there you go. Wires sticking out of the back. Seats all put back together. It's nice and neat and ready for use. All right, everybody, it is the next day and I have got the seats all mounted in the car. They will come out one more time so I can finish up that carpeting. But as you can see, I've got some of the other stuff already finished up and you guys will see that in the next video. But I wanted to get those seats taken care of. This way I can concentrate on getting the carpet finished up. I can get, obviously I can get the dash put in, which you guys have just got a sneak peek of. And I've got to get this thing aligned, a final alignment on it, and we're probably gonna corner weight the car as well. So I've got a lot of stuff left to do before we take this back over to Jeff Miller's, but we're looking pretty good right now. I'm hoping that in the next probably 2 weeks that I'll be able to get all this other stuff squared away and that we'll be all ready to get the body put on back at Jeff Miller's. So if you're enjoying the content here, please do the like, the share, the subscribe, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.